Hey guys, how you doing? Today is Sunday. It's recovery day, so that means foam rolling for me. And I want to talk about something that by now, let's say I've been doing these for about, 2 weeks, I guess. And if you've been practicing anything that I've been talking about, maybe for the first time, or maybe it's been a long time, by now you've probably started to notice little twinges, little aches, little pains, little memories of injuries from a long time ago. So we want to talk about cumulative trauma in this case. The myth is you get an injury and you say, oh, it just happened all of a sudden. When in reality, very often it's a result of cumulative trauma, some little injuries that happen over and over again over a long period of time until one day, boom. Try to think of it this way. Think of a pencil. You take a pencil in between your hands and you start to bend it. But don't snap it, but just bending it, okay? And then you bend it a little more and you start to hear, right? But then you let the pressure off and it returns to its original state. Well, what happens to those little microfibers of wood? Well, they don't repair, they stay broken. Same thing with your joints, your ligaments, your muscles, especially in areas where they don't repair very well because there's not a lot of oxygen, like your knees, and your shoulders, and those kind of joints where the blood doesn't flow that well. So the little traumas, they build up over time until you continue to bend that pencil just far enough and it's become so weak over time that boom, it's gone. And that's when it breaks. It's not all of a sudden. It took a long time, maybe. And that's what happened to my knees and my shoulders and everything else. So why am I telling you this? Because you need to be aware of those little aches and those pains and those little twinges, and you need to remember where they came from and what they are and what caused them in the first place. And then whether or not they're going to come back again as something traumatic. Okay. So for instance, about 30 years ago, I herniated my L5 disc. Once you do that, it's done forever. The only thing you can do is try to maintain or minimize the inflammation so the pain goes away. The inflammation being that bulging disc that's touching the nerve in the spinal column. But the damage is still there for me, and it still manifests itself occasionally by running pain down my leg. Or, in the worst case, what it's actually done is it causes my right glute not to fire about 50%. And I didn't know that for a long, long time. So when that glute wasn't firing all that time, it continued to work itself down the chain. And because the glute wasn't firing, the hamstrings weren't working as well to protect my knee. So my knee wasn't protected. And so over time, just with use and abuse and training and racing and, just doing whatever, eventually the knee was, so weak that it failed. It twisted more than it was able to twist, and it bent beyond its normal range, and there went the ACL and the meniscus. Okay, so you need to know what your pre-existing conditions are. Now, whether that's from your doctor or your surgeon or your physical therapist, or maybe it's just you knowing enough that, hey, I've got something going on here. You need to understand the biomechanics of what it is and where it's coming from and what it's doing down the chain, up the chain. A lot of problems that people have with their knees, I gave you my for one instance, it's because of what's going on in their lower back. That's why I need to have the strong core to protect my lower back all the time. Because if I protect my lower back, I protect my knees. See? Same thing with the shoulders. protecting the upper body with the shoulders by strengthening the chest and back muscles. And the other reason why I'm doing this weekly recovery with the foam roller here is so that I can minimize the effects of the cumulative microtrauma in the myofascial tissue, which if it's not released, okay, it's just going to keep building up and building up until snap, one day something breaks. So we're going to talk about that some more, but take notes, write it down, pay attention to it. And if you know you have something going on that's a pre-existing condition, see what you can do about getting it taken care of before you do it one too many times. See you tomorrow.